Please allow me to share screen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we are in yet another session of this exhaustive CME. This is the fourth day, and I must congratulate the organizers for organizing such an exhaustive, covering the entire list of pediatric surgery topics. So we are at the in this session we'll be covering on vesicoureteric reflux. Are you able to see my screen on full slideshow?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I have two very eminent panelists with me, Dr. Prakash and Dr. Velumurugan from Chennai. And we will be trying to do a case-based discussion on the topic of vesicoureteric reflux. We will try and see that, what the postgraduates who is the main target audience of this CME, he should be able to cover up some of the basics and face a viva in his exam whenever he gets a case or an MCUG during his Viva OC examination. So we will try to cover the primary vesicoureteric reflux. We will not be focusing on the secondary VUR because of neurogenic bladder, VURs in ectopic ureter and duplex moiety, because they are altogether different topics. And we'll try to start with a simple case with an increasing level of complexities and answer all the questions associated with this. So with this, I will start with the first case. So this is a case scenario. We will keep asking our panelists on what is their management philosophy based on the information that is available to us. So this is a 6-month-old boy. So we are starting with a younger age patient who had a normal perinatal history, and he presented with a culture positive UTI, which was a culture proven with E. coli. And he had previous two episodes of high-grade fever, which were treated by the local doctor by antibiotics. And on examination, the child was otherwise well. His urea creatinine was normal, and he was otherwise well grown. So with this kind of history, the most likely diagnosis in which would come to our mind would be because of some sort of urinary tract infection. Urinary tract infection can be because of either a VUR, which would be the most common cause, which would come to the pediatric surgeon's mind. So Dr. Prakash and Dr. Velumurugan, would you consider any other diagnosis other than VUR in this kind of history presentation?
Can I start? See, it's a 6-month-old boy. If the parents are educated enough to notice the stream, and if the child is thriving well in these 6 months, VUR would be my diagnosis. There are incidences of pyelonephritis without VUR, but common things common for the postgraduate. So I would stick with VUR. PUV only when there is a history of a child is not thriving well, there is a history of first stream or good stream with straining. I have seen many such cases. The parents say good stream, but still it is on straining of the abdominal muscle the child is able to. I'll stick with VUR.
Yeah, agreed. Dr. Prakash, would you like to add something?
I will also agree to that. Until and unless we have some different finding on imaging where we find some other cause of UTI. Otherwise, most commonly it will be VUR only.
What to do next will be a thing. Whether we do the ultrasound, of course, ultrasound should be done, or whether we should go on a top-down or a bottom-up approach. That is what should be.
We will gradually corner down to that question. So this patient, after this kind of presentation, he was subjected to an ultrasound examination, which is usually the commonest and the first, most non-invasive imaging which we would subject him to. And the ultrasound showed up a bilateral hydroureteronephrosis with both the ureters on both sides dilated up to the lower end. So which gave us a finding of bilateral hydroureteronephrosis. And with that, I think the next pragmatic approach would be to suggest for a VCUG. So would you say that we straight away go for VCUG, or we should wait for some other investigation?
If it was, since you showed an ultrasound, I mean, you discussed an ultrasound showing dilatation, you have got an organic problem, right? You have got an anatomical problem. Then VCG should be the first investigation. If there were not any ultrasound did not pick up major dilatation, I would have gone for a DMSA first. And that ultrasound is very, very important, especially the cross section of the bladder. It gives you a lot of things. The dilatation up to the lower end, whether there are any pathology, erythrocoel, the reflux can be seen, the bladder thickness, all this, that initial ultrasound by a targeted ultrasound by a pediatric sonologist preferred. Yeah. And then
only positive finding was bilateral hydroureteronephrosis. The bladder outline was normal. There was no erythrocele. And whatever comment that was available on the urethra, that was not very. So I would assume that his urethra was normal. So with that, we went ahead and did a VCUG in this patient. I will display the VCUG in this patient now.
Before doing VCUG, Ravi, I would like to tell the PGs who are doing the VCUG, they should do the urine culture first, see that there is no infection, and start an antibiotic. If there is an infection, control it, and then do the VCUG.
Yes, very correct, Prakash. So with this
side, because one UTI, it can play a minor refluxes, even if it were not any. Second, I have had burnt my fingers with MCU, though the urine routine was normal. Children have developed urosepsis on especially small infants. Yeah, Ravi.
Yeah. So in this child, I would like to highlight the fact that after his presentation with the acute episode of UTI, we did not straight away went ahead and did a VCUG. He was initially stabilized, and his initial management comprised of IV antibiotics and hydration. And it was only a month later when this VCUG was done, once the cultures were found to be negative. So we have the VCUG films on display over here. You can see that it is showing a bilateral reflux where it's almost grade 4 to 5. The bladder outline is appearing to be normal, and the posterior urethra is, the displayed part is also normal. So with this kind of approach, now we will come to the questions. The main questions that we would be asking in this child would be that...
Sorry, one minute. Yeah. I can't see the lower part of the screen. Is it going too much below, or can you
pinch it in, rather. Pinch it. I can see the hole.
You can see?
The MCU has been cut off. Bladder.
Yeah, the first the lower part is cut off. In the second film, you can see the entire bladder in the posterior. Do you see the second film?
Yeah, I have to reduce my screen. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the second film is showing the entire bladder and the urethra. The posterior urethra is also visible.
Yeah.
It's so with this, that second film, the second film, you see that the posterior urethra appears normal, or the stream is normal, and there is no bladder neck hypertrophy, which is very significant. The bladder base is almost with the pubes. That I feel is a very significant thing in a male child. So
apart from what is the most prominent finding of bilateral vesico-ureteric reflux in this VCUG, there are several other components for the sake of postgraduates, which they should be able to comment while they are, reading out. They are asked to read out the films during an exam. So apart from the kidneys, ureter, the outline of the bladder, the posterior urethra, you will have to comment on the fecal loading, which you can appreciate if it is there, because there would be a significant component of bladder bowel dysfunction may be present in these patients. So you will have to comment on that, and for the sake of completeness of your description. So that is one thing to highlight. As I said, the initial management which was offered to this child was of IV antibiotics. It is not like that every time you have to catheterize the child, but in most of the circumstances, if the urine is not turbid and the child is voiding normally, he is not dribbling, you will not have to catheterize the child. But there are certain scenarios where the infection is too much and his child is in a state of urosepsis kind of situation, then you will have to catheterize. So as Dr. Velmurugan was mentioning about the top-down or VCUG first approach, Dr. Velmurugan, would you like to elaborate now at this point for the postgraduates that what is top-down approach or a VCUG first approach?
See, every child with the febrile UTI has to be, the whole concept as every febrile UTI, male or a female, irrespective of age, you have to chase a diagnosis down. Chase it. To cut the chase, whether you have to find out whether top-down approach is when you do a DMSA, find out whether the reflux or anything is significant enough to have affected the kidney. You get two variables, whether there is a pyelonephritis or is the pyelonephritis significant enough to cause nephron loss and scarring. That is one thing. And then that is a top-down approach. If you find a pyelonephritis or a scarring, then it must obviously be due to a reflux or some pathology lower down. And then you follow that up with a VCUG. But in a bottom-down approach, when you have a dilated system on ultrasound, you are more likely to find a reflux, or even if there is no reflux, it's important to find out why the pathology. In that, you do an MCU first. That would be my line of management.
Since
It all
VCUG is
depends
an
on the ultrasound finding.
So VCUG is a very invasive investigation, and it is sometimes quite distressing to the patient. And in the Western world, it was very difficult to convince the parents to do such painful, distressing, invasive investigations. So they always thought of doing a DMSA first. But in our scenario, I think most of us are practicing VCUG first because of the, you get a clear picture and you get a diagnosis straight up front that vesicouritic reflux is present there or not, with a lot of additional information about the bladder also. So, Dr. Prakash, with this, now the case scenario which we have is a 6-month-old child with a VCUG documented bilateral hydroureteronephrosis. He has been stabilized after an initial episode of acute UTI and acute pyelonephritis. He is now 7 months, 8 months down this treatment phase. What is the option for surgical management at this age?
Okay, so as you can see from the VCUG, the grade of reflux will be somewhere around 2 to 3. So most likely, I would not jump into surgery immediately. If I have a documented DMSA saying that, okay, there is no scarring and this is the first episode of UTI, I will wait. And I would always do a baseline investigation to see the DMSA whether there is any scarring or not. Then if there is a further breakthrough infection, then that would be my indication for surgery in this patient. But let me tell you, every patient of VUR has to be individualized with respect to the treatment. If it is a small child with a single episode of febrile UTI, we have documented that there is no scarring and the grade of reflux is low, I would have a very high threshold for surgery in this case or any intervention. So I would always wait for a breakthrough infection, or if the grade of reflux is increasing or not settling down over a period of time, then I would go for surgery later on, not recently.
So this patient did not have a scar on the right side, but he had one scar at the lower pole of the kidney on the left side. So his left side kidney function was a little less than the right side, but the child was otherwise stabilized and he was put on continuous antibiotic prophylaxis up to the age of 1 year. And then at that time, he was reconsidered, although he did not have any sort of infection because he was responding well to the antibiotics. So if he does not have breakthrough UTI and his scars are not there, would you still continue with conservative management and not offer him surgery, or you would say that no, now is the time to operate this child and correct the reflux?
No, I would give the option to the parents. So they're saying that if this child gets another breakthrough UTI, maybe the scarring will increase. But still, it is high chance that with conservative management, it may improve also, because there is no other anatomical problem like few valves or anything in this child. So most likely, because of low-grade reflux, it may improve with age. If the parents don't want to take any chance, no, you do something now only, we don't want to take a chance to get the kidney damage, I would go in for intervention. But still, I would wait for the spontaneous resolution of VUR in this case.
See,
you want to add?
Yeah, this is a very fine line. You have an infant with a scar with documented febrile UTI on a couple of occasions. Now, though the child is doing well, it's a very fine line you have to tread, whether to decide whether to give the benefit of waiting and chemoprophylaxis or to go ahead with surgery. Now, waiting and chemoprophylaxis, this decision has to be first taken by us before offering the choice to the parent. I would, in this particular case, there is a scar, there is febrile UTI, and I would tell them that surgery will prevent further scars. Surgery can correct it, but then since I would go by the dilatation. There is not much of ureteric dilatation. Though there is I do not know whether the VCUG is a filling phase or a voiding phase VCUG. Whatever it is, if it's a filling phase, I would be very worried and I offer surgery. If it's a voiding phase VCUG and there is not much of tortuosity, I would wait, give antibiotics, and then If there is a breakthrough infection, or if the scars increase or scars appear, new scars appear, I would definitely take it up for surgery, irrespective of age. I would give that option to the parent and then let them decide.
Okay. So now this patient, because the parents were well read through the internet, they came in a leading way to consider the option of deflux. And this child has now grown up to the age of 15 months. He's past the age of 1 year. So at that time, with the discussion with the parents, and although he did not had any breakthrough UTIs, he was given deflux at the age of 15 months. So you can see the cystoscopic appearance of the ureteric orifice, both sides, and they were injected with a good mound formation. And following that, the child was kept on continuous antibiotic prophylaxis, and then a repeat MCUG was done after 3 months. So which showed resolution of reflux on the right side, which was completely gone, and with downgrading of reflux on the left side, because the left side had the higher grade of reflux to start with. So he's now almost 6 months of follow-up. He's now continuing with the antibiotic prophylaxis, and we have suggested him to get a repeat DMSA scan to have a sequential monitoring of the scar which he had on the left side. So with this kind of scenario, now we can discuss that whether this was a viable, feasible option, or whether we should have offered him surgery upfront, or what is happening to the left side, why there is the reflux has not gone on the left side. Dr. Prakash.
No, Ravi, I would like to know before that, what circumstances we operated on, we injected deflux for this child, whether there was a breakthrough UTI or it was a parental decision to go ahead and do the deflux.
So there was no breakthrough UTI. There was no breakthrough UTI, and the child was on continuous antibiotic prophylaxis. A question was asked to us that for how long we are going to give antibiotic prophylaxis to this child. Will it be lifelong, and for how? What is the normal duration of spontaneous resolution with this kind of high-grade reflux? The information which we gave him, that we really don't know the duration. It could be like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years before we can see this reflux going down, with the added risk of having recurrent infections and scars in the kidney. So with that information, it was discussed with the parents that yes, they want to go ahead and do a deflux.
Yeah, so if you see the injection of deflux, which has caused resolution on one side and not so very good result on the other side, that is expected of deflux. When we counsel the parents also, we tell them about 70 to 80% it may get completely cured, but still there is a chance that 20 to 30% it may not completely resolve. So the option in this child will be to do another setting of deflux on the side which has not resolved completely. So that may give it a complete resolution. And there are a lot of known case reports wherein a single sitting you may not be able to completely cure bilateral reflux. In a second sitting, you will be able to completely cure them.
May I add to the postgraduate listening to this, that it's very important to this, the reason why we put up this infant reflux is, it is very important that to understand renal growth and nephron addition. Nephrons are added to not throughout life, only in the first 7 years of life. Not a single nephron is added after that. Especially, and this maximum nephron addition occurs in the first couple of years, especially in infancy. So our goal as pediatric surgeons in a case with BUR in any case is to maximize nephron addition and to minimize nephron loss. Okay, so the best chance is to correct it. Surgery gives us, I'm batting for surgery because I'm more comfortable with surgery in infancy. Surgery gives about 99%, it's by all accounts, 99% results. And as Prakash says, it is not 70%, it has improved up to 90% resolution of reflux and deflux. It is improving with better techniques and deliverable modes. You have better results, but they're not as good as surgery. So as a beginner, you have to concentrate on preventing. So an infant or a small child having a reflux is a different entity. Like we discussed somewhere in for 2 weeks back, it is different from a child above 5 years, where the grade of reflux doesn't matter as long as it is UTI free. But a smaller child, when there is a potential for renal growth, please correct it and please prevent further reflux. That is the most important goal. How you do it is up to you. Whether you want to do surgery or you want to do a deflux or you want to do anything else, that is up to you. But then you try to maximize nephron growth nephron addition by correcting this reflux as early as possible. That is my point here.
Dr. Velmurugan, what is the minimum age at which you would recommend either an anti-reflux surgery or a deflux injection in such scenarios?
Deflux, I don't have much experience, but the a few things I did, I'm happy with the delivery. Like that is one. So I admit that I would not have experience in reflux. As for surgery, the youngest child I have operated is 5.5 months, and for many years now, I was considered a maverick. At this point, I should, thank Dr. Bagdi, who's in this organizing team. He was my teacher. He was my chief when I was as assistant professor. He gave me the space and the liberty to indulge in my, it was considered buccaneering, my early infantry plans, single-stage hyperspadias repairs, single-stage extravascular repairs. You're only as good as what your chief allows you to be. So Bagdi gave me that space in my early days, and I'm always grateful to him for that. He has inspired quite a few others also. But when I started doing it early infantry implants, there are many concerns about size of the bladder, how you mobilize. And people who have worked with me both in ICH and in Child Stress Hospital have assisted me, vouch for the fact that it's much easier to do it in an infant. It is more pliable. The ureter is more easily manageable. There is very little bleeding. We do it in an hour's time, and even if it is both sides. And rarely, see, reflux is one disease when you wait up to 3-4 years, you might have the ureter becomes thickened, tortuous, that you might have to go in and do a tapering later on. If it is my experience that we wait on these refluxes for them to think. Sometimes you'll have to go in and do a tapering, and already there is the hypertension settles in. The renovascular hypertension. There are a lot of other problems, complications which set in spite of good chemoprophylaxis. And in a country like India, though, even in the private sector, parents are, little is it, sir, do I have to, somebody, I think Prakash raised this, do I have to take this lifelong? So that is the biggest worry they have. And they're asking about percentages. Now, what is the most agreeable percentages? The highest percentage of results are with open surgery. So that is why I offer, and I am successful in doing infant reimplant surgeries. And I think we presented a paper in Delhi conference, the last physical conference we had, of a series of 20 or 25 infant reimplants done the previous year. And it was interesting in that even 60% of them had renovascular hypertension. So, and 30 or 35% had scars. But those developed in children above 6 months of age. So, as a pediatric surgeon, I would like to prevent all that and go in early, since I do not have any technical difficulties in doing the surgery.
So, Prakash, you have to add on that age question.
Yeah, because see, there are other side to the story also. If you are operating on a younger child, which you would have, supposing a low-grade reflux 2 or 3, it would have resolved on its own. And if you are offering surgery has its own complications. Smaller child, like getting obstructed. If I land up doing a bilateral reimplant and supposing one side gets obstructed, then there is a bigger problem to compare to what I have offered to the child. So the ifs and buts are there, and even a small baby, I feel the bladder is not very compliant and not very mature enough for a reimplant. Though case-based, if it's a very high-grade reflux, child is definitely needing, indications are there is no doubt we should go ahead. But if we can wait, I think it is always prudent to wait rather than operate on a younger kid, less than 1 year. My age will be 1 year, below 1 year.
Below 2 years. So for a postgraduate, if he's faced with the same question, I think the safe way out in front of his examiner is to, settle around the age of 1 year, giving the reasons twofold. One is that it would be a safer age where you will have enough of bladder capacity to have a technically safe and a technically better reimplant procedure. Second, as Dr. Prakash said, that you will know the trend of the degree of dilatation which he is having. Either it is increasing, decreasing, and you will know that whether this reflux is going to go away on its own or not. So there will be a trend which would have established by that time. But of course, having said that, if there are compelling reasons to reimplant at the age of say between 6 to 9 months of age, where you see that there are too many breakthrough infections and otherwise the bladder capacity is okay, it can be done at a smaller age also, as Dr. Velmurugan added. We'll go on to the next slide. So this is another case where the age group is exactly the same. This case is coming from Dr. Velmurugan. It's a 5-month-old child, and he presented with severe urosepsis, deranged urea creatinine, and the VCUG which was done is displayed here. You can see that there is bilateral severe grade 5 VUR with dilated tortuous ureters. Dr. Velmurugan, would you like to add to any of the clinical information about this patient?
Yeah, this child was antenatally diagnosed with, or the first postnatal, for whatever reason, I couldn't see the antenatal scan. This is a private patient, came to me in Child Trust. So this particular child developed, urosepsis while on follow-up with chemo. It was a 5-month-old child. We put it on chemoprophylaxis. Somehow it developed a severe urosepsis causing seizures and all that. So I was forced to do, very rarely am I forced to do a ureterostomy for thing, but in this case it was life-saving. I did a right ureterostomy. The ultrasound at that time showed the kidneys were badly affected and debris, pus, purulent material. There was purulent fluid coming out when I did a right ureterostomy. I did a right ureterostomy, and subsequently, after the ureterostomy, I went in. There was persistent, the child urea creatinine, everything would grow. It became normal. The kidney, the DMSA, curiously, 3 months after this, the ureterostomy was near normal. So after 3 months or 4 months, I remember the time frame, I went in and did a reimplant on this case. Probably when this child was 9 months old, I did a reimplant on his subsequent ureterostomy closure. And only after the ureterostomy closure, I went and did a check-MCU which showed no reflux. I think I shared it. It was MCU showed no reflux. So that is it. So in this case,
last 10 minutes, please.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Pradhan. I've noted. So these last 2 cases were of the same age group, showing the spectrum of the severity of the condition with which a VUR case can present. So the first case was a little milder, although the grade of reflux was still 4 and 5. And the second case was having urosepsis. So I would assume that this patient must have been managed with initial phase of bladder catheterization and observation. And, it was only after that you must have taken a decision of ureterostomy.
Yeah, it was admitted.
Not bilateral ureterostomy and just right ureterostomy, because his left side seems to be same side.
No, I did the right ureterostomy for because the ultrasound showed the right side had turbidity, the left side did not have, and it was gross. So I went ahead. Normally you would do a left, but in this case the right side turbidity too much. So I did a right ureterostomy. It turned out the decision, I was lucky with my decision. The child improved immediately, and it's regular to follow up. It didn't have BP anyway. This child, it had a raised creatinine with stabilized. 2 years.
Prakash, would you consider doing a PCN in this patient instead of a ureterostomy?
Child is very small for me to do a PCN. I would do a ureterostomy only. My only worry is if the other side doesn't drain, then do you do a bilateral ureterostomy at a later stage? Or you think always it will reflux through the other side and come out? One side ureterostomy is enough.
Prakash, when there is a bilateral VUR, the yo-yo reflux will take care of draining the opposite system also. And in case you are forced to do in a worsening urosepsis, we have had a couple of cases recently. We had to in ICH where we have to train the mother to do a black, the distal ostomy.
I think these are the intraoperative pictures from Dr. Velmurugan about the same patient. And could you describe these for us, Dr. Velmurugan?
Yeah, I go by an anti-bladder approach. It's very easy if you see. This child is about 8.5 months old. And there is no technical difficulty on dissecting the ureters or the bladder, getting a submucosal tunnel at this point. A point to notice, another thing is that I prefer a Cohen's transtrigonal reimplantation. Over the years, It is a surgery. See, I've been a pediatric surgeon in '94. Over the years, I find that it is the only surgery which has consistently reproducible results, irrespective of the skill sets of the surgeon operating. You have PGs operating, assistant professors, senior assistant professors, professors. Irrespective of the skill set, the results are almost the same. So it is something which has consistent results. You put the ureter in the trigone area, you have trigone backing, and it's a success rate. It takes about, in trained hands, it takes about 1.5 hours, irrespective of you stay single or bilateral. And there are two things which I personally, it's a personal pet peeve, you can say. I do not depend on, right from my early days, I do not depend on the species, or I don't bring the stents outside. Nowadays, I am more I keep internal stents. However, I close the bladder in 2 layers. It's a watertight closure. Pre-vesical drain is optional. I keep a bladder drain. I don't keep a Foley's catheter. It's important, like you have operated on the trigone area, and you do not want to irritate with that area with a Foley's balloon. So I personally do not like a Foley drainage. I keep just a soft feeding tube, and I do not even fix the feeding tube to the penis or the vulva when I finish the surgery. Because I keep it only for a couple of days, or in many cases it voids it even on the night of surgery. I don't mind. I have this discovery was serendipitous, as is most things in surgeries. Early on in my career, I found a child had passed off, and I was too tired to go in and put it back, and I said, let us wait. The whole thing settled. So I'm votary for early removal of. I don't the feeding tube. I don't keep a Foley's catheter. Remove the catheter very early, and some of my postgraduates are bold enough to even remove it on my cases on the next day itself, saying that nothing will happen. It's if your bladder closure is okay, I don't even a pre-vesical drain is needed. Again, I have forgotten to keep it in some cases, and I found out it didn't have results. So let's go to the next case here.
We go to the next case. So now we go to bigger child with the UTI. 4-year-old boy with history of recurrent UTI. Multiple episodes of culture positive UTIs. He's otherwise grown well. His BP is normal. Again, the left ultrasound is showing hydroureteronecrosis. With normal right system, bladder is normal, and his post-void residue is greater than 50 ml on 2 occasions. So with this history,
our time is up. So maybe rather than going to new case, can we just summarize and give take-home message to the postgraduates?
Yeah. Okay. I'll quickly wind up in next few minutes.
Yeah.
So I'll just talk about some recommendations with this kind of cases. So here you can see that there is grade 5 reflux, very severe reflux. The ureter is dilated and tortuous, and the DMSA scan was also showing compromised renal function with scar in this kind of patients. So with this since it is a grown-up child and we do not want any kind of further renal compromise in these kind of patients, I think the option is to do straight away some sort of surgical procedure in these patients. And he was managed initially with antibiotics and was suggested for deflux again, because deflux is such a common request from the parents. When we did a cystoscopy in this patient, it showed a very large patulous ureteric orifice, and it definitely required an injection of more than 1 ml volume in this patient, because 1 ml would have not stopped the reflux. He would have required a second injection